Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're taking a look at a framework that is totally reshaping how we think about teaching, especially now, in the digital age. It's called TPACK. And it might just be the key to finally unlocking what our classroom technology is really capable of.
I mean, think about it. We have literally flooded our schools with technology. Tablets, smartboards, all kinds of software. But here's the billion-dollar question. Is any of it actually making education better? Or have we just invented a really expensive way to do the same old things?
Well, the sources we're digging into today argue that it's not about having the latest gadgets. Not at all. They say that using technology well, that comes down to a really specific, kind of complex, and deeply interconnected set of skills that teachers have to develop.
You know the vision, right? The super dynamic, almost futuristic classroom where tech just transforms the way kids learn. But the reality? Well, it's often a teacher just struggling to get a smartboard to do something more than just be a projector for old worksheets. There's a huge gap between the promise and the day-to-day practice. So the question is, how do we close that gap?
This is where TPACK comes in. Researchers Punya Mishra and Matthew Kohler, they built on this earlier idea from Lee Shulman, and they came up with the TPACK framework. It's basically a map that shows us exactly what a modern teacher needs to know to really truly teach effectively with technology.
Okay, so it all starts with three fundamental building blocks. The first one is content knowledge, or CK. This is the bedrock, right? It's knowing your stuff. You just can't teach history if you don't actually know history. Simple as that. Second, you've got to have pedagogical knowledge, or PK. Now, this is the real art and science of teaching. It's knowing how to teach. How do you run a classroom? How do you know if your students are actually getting it? Which teaching strategy works for which kid? That's all pedagogy.
And the third piece of the puzzle, and this is so critical today, is technological knowledge, TK. This is just knowing the tech itself, and that means everything from a simple pencil to the most complex piece of software. It's about knowing what your tools can do and how they work.
But here's the thing. Having those three types of knowledge in separate silos, it's not enough. The researchers who developed this found that the real magic, the real breakthrough happens in the spaces where these areas overlap and blend together. That's where something totally new is created.
So for example, where pedagogy and content meet, you get PCK. This is super important. It's not just knowing how to teach. It's knowing how to teach biology specifically. It's knowing that using a certain analogy is the perfect way to help a 10th grader finally understand photosynthesis. It's a specialized craft.
Then you've got TCK. This is where technology and content come together. It's about knowing which specific tool is the best fit for the subject you're teaching. Like using interactive simulation software to let students play with the laws of physics, something they could never do on a worksheet.
And there's also TPK, which is the blend of technology and pedagogy. This is all about the how. How does using this specific app change the way you run your lesson? How do you manage a classroom where every student is working on a different device? That's TPK.
And that brings us right to the very center of the whole thing, TPACK. This is the sweet spot where all three circles, content, pedagogy, and technology, merge. It's not just a combination, it's a whole new integrated form of knowledge. This is what allows a teacher to design truly powerful, modern learning experiences.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but does it actually work in the real world? Well, if you look at the research, interest in TPACK has just absolutely exploded. I mean, the number of academic papers on it has gone through the roof, which tells you that experts around the world are taking this very, very seriously.
And we're not just talking about theory here. People are putting this framework to the test right now, all over the planet. We're seeing it used to teach English writing to nursing students in Taiwan, geography to future teachers in Spain, and even really complex subjects like genetics in Indonesia. It's happening everywhere.
And what about the results? Get this. One study in Thailand looked at first graders learning math. After their teachers started using a TPACK-based model, those kids showed a learning progress score of over 43%. That is a massive leap forward.
But of course, it's not a magic wand. Getting those kinds of results is hard work. Just listen to what one of the teachers in that Taiwan study said. She called it a demanding project, saying there were just so many issues to cover. It takes a ton of effort.
And she's definitely not alone. When you look at studies from all over, you see the same challenges pop up again and again.
Teachers say it's incredibly time-consuming to create these lessons, that they desperately need good tech support, and this is the big one, they need more training to build up their own TPACK skills.
But the payoff? It seems to be huge. Just listen to this quote from a student who went through a course designed around the TPACK framework. You can hear the pure excitement in their voice. It's not just about learning facts. It's about fundamentally changing how you think about things.
And the data consistently backs this feeling up. The benefits of doing TPACK right are crystal clear. Students get way more engaged. They actually learn how to collaborate and work together as a team, and the whole learning process becomes more convenient and flexible for everyone.
So all of this is pointing toward a new kind of teacher. One source calls it the digital pedagogue. And this isn't just a teacher who happens to use technology. No, this is an educator who has truly mastered this art of TPACK. Someone who can seamlessly weave together what to teach, how to teach it, and the perfect tools for the job.
Ultimately, what the sources are telling us is that TPACK isn't really about mastering gadgets. It's about mastering a new and better way of teaching. And that leaves us with a huge, critical question. How do we actually empower every single teacher to reach that level? How do we give them the support, the training, and the time to become true digital pedagogues? Answering that, well, that could define the future of education itself.